So one of the comments on the last video kind of segues into this video. And the comment was, I think like that I was confusing professionals with artists. And, in one sense, I completely understand where you're coming from, that, professional needs to know all the buttons, but an artist doesn't care about all the buttons. Now, at some point, I can agree with this, but it comes back to that same thing where, if an artist or a musician, wannabe artist, wants to buy a guitar and then play the next day, you can't just say, it sounds like this, but it doesn't matter because he's an artist. Or a dancer dances horribly and it's okay, I'm an artist. It doesn't matter if I don't know how to dance. It goes for every single thing except photography. So even with the easiest point and shoot there is, and this person is an artist, if they have a vision and they can't create that vision because they don't know how to set the camera to create that vision, do they hand it off to someone else to set it up for them? Now, I know there's a lot of very famous artist photographers that have this, that can hand the camera off to someone and say, I want to do this, and to the lighting experts to say, I want this. And even then, they have to have the vision first, but not being able to create that vision without other people. It's a collaboration of artists that create that image, not one person. So yeah, having a vision and not being able to create it, where is the separation between professional and artist? I think every artist has to know their craft. And it may be easy to say, well, this person just picked up the paintbrush and they painted, and they were just a savant of art. And more power to them, but as they go on, as they keep painting, they do improve. They do know what brushes to use, what colors to use, what colors to mix. Everything comes with time and effort. And not knowing your equipment because you're an artist and not being able to create the vision that you want to create because you don't know how to do settings. I don't know. I think there's a very blurry line that you were wanting me to cross because I'm a professional versus an artist. Like, I don't care if it's the simple grip and grim, and it's outdoors and I can set the camera all to automatic, which is this video, by the way. I'm still going to get the best image I can possibly get, whether it is making every single one of those people in this grip and grin look fantastic, which is an art of itself, or knowing how to set up the camera to create this image. If it's backlit and it's the only thing you could do and there's sun and blazing the lens, and you need to know what to do. If you're shooting a strobe at a slow shutter and all of a sudden, it looks like they're running backwards because the streak is before them, and not knowing how to set that to rear sync. There's too many aspects of our photography business, especially with the new cameras and the new technology that blows the comment of, they're an artist, they don't need to know all the buttons, out of the water. That being said, segueing into this one, mistakes I made when I was young and just starting out in photography, and I'll never forget, there's some ones that stick in my mind so dearly. The first time I was arguing with a seasoned professional about using automatic on the camera. I believe I was using aperture priority and auto white balance, and it was for, I think it was for a graduation. And he told me this is the settings you need to use. And I said, you know what? I have the greatest camera there is right now, and it does fantastic in auto mode and auto white balance. And the gowns were navy blue, a dark navy blue, and baby blue for the girls, and it was almost a white baby blue. And I stood there saying, I don't need to do that because my camera can do it for me. And when I tell you that every other image was light, dark, because the camera picked up off of the baby blue or the navy blue and adjusted for that, there was a little bit more than I told you so at the end of this job, and that was film. Now, even something as simple as auto white balance. I did an auto white balance because I was too lazy to set up the custom white balance, and it was at a school when I was doing school portraits. Now, if this was a private school and they all wore uniforms, this would have been great. But it was a public school. I believe it was 1,600 kids that I shot that day. And of course, every kid had different color shirts on. And when I tell you the color balance was all over the board, because if they were wearing an orange shirt, the camera adjusted for that orange. And if they were wearing a blue shirt, the post-processing nightmare was just a nightmare. So as I would like to say, oh my God, it's so easy with new cameras and the AI, and yet there's some AI in the new cameras that is pretty damn good. But at no point whatsoever, even with the latest cameras, would I allow auto white balance to make my decisions for me, or auto exposure, or auto ISO. Now, if you're shooting outdoors at an event or something like that, auto ISO, it works great, and putting it on aperture priority, fantastic. But when you get into those situations where it's dusk and you're not setting your shutter speed and your ISO, you're going to have problems. And I hear too many photographers say, "Oh, I can fix it in post." Yeah, you can. And if you have that much time, God bless you. But some of these photographers are shooting 3,000 photos for an event. The spray and pray kind of mentality. And if that works for you, great. But allowing the camera to make those decisions for you, you're going to need those 3,000 shots, because there's going to be such differentials in between each photo. And yes, everything can be set in post, and yeah, you're shot in RAW, so you can fix the white balance later. But it's so much easier to say, okay, this should be my white balance in this scenario. I'm going to set my ISO at this, especially if you're using flash. Do not ever, in any situation, rely on auto ISO when you're using a flash, even for fill or just as a kicker. It doesn't work. And if it does one time, the next time, I promise you the fourth time, it's going to fail you somehow, some way, and you're going to miss that shot. Learning how to set your camera, even if you take your camera and put it in all program mode, that's great. Then switch it to manual with those settings. It's easy to do fine adjustments. Like if I'm shooting flash, I'm set in an ISO, like I'm in a dark event area, I'm shooting at 1600 ISO. I have my flash on manual, and this person's a little closer, this person's a little farther. So if they're closer, I'll tilt the flash back a little bit more. It'll give them less light. And if they're farther away, I'll tilt it forward just a little bit. And it's just a minor adjustment like this that you learn from practice that's going to fix those little things. But TTL flash, same thing. This person's in all white, this person's in dark. If the camera gets confused, no matter how good the AI is. So learning these things is really important. And the other day I did a video with that base ISO is 64 and LEDs and so forth, and a gentleman said, shoot at 400, it's great. And I'm 100% on board with you on that. I think ISO 400 is fantastic and is this medium that can save your flash power, can do a lot of things for you. But, you know, like if I'm shooting in studio for a client, they need base ISO of 64. If I'm shooting an event that's moderate light, you know, my daughter always asks me, you know, what film should I buy? A 400. Indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter, 400. That's my go-to. Now, when I was shooting film, I was shooting Kodachrome 64. That was my film. I just loved 64. And if it was a dark area, I'd use a bigger flash because I just loved the Kodachrome. But today, to make life easy, you set your ISO at 400, whether you're indoors or outdoors, you can get great photos. And yeah, you're going to see a little bit of noise in your images, but it's not bad at all. And for many clients, it'd be perfect. And you know, for consumer clients, they don't care. They just want great photos. And for you, it's easy, you know, because it is good for a little bit of low light or sunshine. You know, maybe you have to stop down a little bit because it's ISO, you know, 400, but it's easy. Anyway, that's my thing for today. I just thought that, you know, the excuse of I'm an artist, I don't need to know this, you know, fits in and ties in well with know your ISOs, know your white balances. Take the time to set it, even though you're shooting in RAW and you can do it in post. Having to do every other image and do all that work in post when you can just shoot it right in the camera will save you a lot of time, effort, and headache. You know, I get it. I get a lot of, oh my God, I love shooting, but I hate the post-processing. Well, you know, cut that post-processing down by knowing your gear, knowing how to set up the camera, knowing what your ISO is. You know, use the manual settings as much as you possibly can. Starting out with automatic this, that, or the other thing is great, but take a look at the camera and see what the camera decided. Then set it to manual and make little tweaks. You know, this will save you from going, oh, I just know. You know, let the camera give you that starting point, switch it over to manual, and then make little tweaks back and forth. If you have any questions, leave them below. And again, thanks for watching.